This daf Yerushalmi Eruvin. The article Ozvar edition on daf Nun Tes and Rav. We're starting halacha test, the new Mishnah, which is in the Vilna on daf Nun Hey and Rav. New Mishnah halacha test. Chotzer shipchusa mi'arba amos. So chotzer, which is less than 4 amos in its 4 by 4 amos in its expanse. Ancient v'sochamayim Shabbos can't pour water into a Shabbos. I can also uka. Unless you made a hole in the ground, a sign which can hold a sign. Go to of water, from the hole downwards, meaning in its cavity. We could be inside the yard or outside the yard. By the outside, you have to make a covering over it. And on the inside, you do not have to make a covering over it. And here's a picture in the Peirush Chai. You have here, this is the uka inside the yard. And that's the uka outside the yard. It has to be covered. That's a little bit inside the yard, so you can put there. And basically, the issue is that we don't want rainwater to go out of your yard into the Rishus Harabim outside. So therefore, you need to have enough room for it to either seep into the ground, which means that the expanse of the yard has to be more than 4 by 4 amos, or there has to be a hole which can go either in your yard or under the Rishus Harabim. Chazal estimate that the average usage of a household of water on a day is 2 sa'ah, which the article says is 16.5 liters according to Chaim Noah, which is approximately 4 gallons, or 28.7 liter according to the Chazon Ish, which is approximately 7 or 8 gallons. So you have to have amount of area which is either going to absorb that water or that hole which the water can collect. That is Tanakama. The Rebbe Yaakov adds, so Biv Shu Kamur. You have a Biv which is covered 4 Rishus Harabim, 4 amos in Rishus Harabim. Shav Zol Mayim b'Shabbos. You can put water into on Shabbos. So here you have the Biv. It's like a sewage ditch, which is in Rishus Harabim, but it's Kamur. There's a covering on top. Right. So you can pour water into pour your wastewater in Shabbos. Even if you have a roof or a chutzah which is 100 amos, huge expanse, you shouldn't pour into that sewage ditch. As Korban says, even though it's going to go out, there are 100 amos to which it's going to travel before it goes out to Rishus Harabim. Only Bala can get absorbed in that ditch in your yard. Can the gufe shafich since you're tossing your wastewater in that ditch, it's going to flow directly uvekoyach and with strength to Rishus Harabim. For a Meshishaf on some so Ubay Lefko, person who sees it say must have spilled it adjacent to his exit from the yard, and he wants to go out. So evidently in the Reisha, when we're talking about the uka, it's not. It doesn't look like it's meant to go out to Rishus Harabim, whereas a sewage ditch evidently it looks like it's going to go out into Rishus Harabim, and that's its purpose. So therefore, we have a distinction in the Maris Ayin issue involved. The Avashachla Gag, what you can do, you can spill on your roof. The Vahin Yord in the beef, and they go down into the sewage. Well, first, I have a picture of this. The spill on your roof indirectly, not directly into the sewage trench. So the and the Chotzer and Achsadra and the Chotzer and Achsadra together, right adjacent to each other. Achsadra, of course, is covered. Chotzer is uncovered. The Mitzvah Arba Amos. They join together to make up the 4 amos, which is necessary. You have or you don't have a hole there. Shtei du zu keneged zu. Here too, we have a picture to Dutos. They're like up second floors, and they have a chutzer kam, but they didn't make an Erev in the chutzer. So there's a uka next to one of them, and uka not next to the other one. So as you can see, so as us uka mutar, those who made the uka are permitted. The veshlos uka, and those who did not make the uka are forbidden, even though they're pouring water down into the chotzer. So the ones who are next to it can use it. The ones who are not next to you can't use it. So the Korban explains. As long as they didn't make an eruv. The if you're going to allow these people to pour their stuff into the chotzer by the uka of the other people, they're actually going to carry vessels with their wastewater from the house to the chotzer, up to the uka. It's they're going to carry a chotzer which there's no eruv. So important to know why we're talking about the yutos. If you're talking about the first floor itself, you can't spill into the chotzer because the chotzer doesn't have eruv. But the people in the yutos, they pour on their balcony, and the water happens to go down into the chotzer. Chazal weren't going on that. Under normal circumstances, you pour in your yuta, it goes down to the chotzer, not a problem. But again, people on higher up. But in this case, the people who don't have the yuta opposite them, even though the water's going down the chotzer, since they're eventually going to uka, which is affiliated with the other side, so we're afraid that they're going to start carrying stuff as well. So therefore, we ask them to pour their water on their balcony to go down into the chotzer, even because it's going to end up in uka, and then they're going to start carrying stuff from their diuta to the uka. Okay. And what it says, as we mentioned, that shiru mokum tashmish lo adam sasaim. The reason why the uka has to hold sasaim is because Chazal reckon that the amount of water, the wastewater generated by a person on Shabbos, the amount of water used, he needs to use, and whatever amount of wastewater generated is a sasaim. And if you have 4 amos, by 4 amos that will absorb a sasaim. If it says 4 amos, you need to have the uka. So the I have the other line says if he uses more, having the milslo shlicha. That's not prevalent. Didn't decree in that case. Baramos Mavlio says even they go out then, lo yiskai that was not his intent. His intent for it to be absorbed. Therefore, even water overflows to uka. You made an uka. That's what you have to do. But the fact that it went out from there, was not your intent. Therefore, Chazal did not not tell you, well, you can't fill it up. It might spill out. No, you're not concerned with that. Okay, nikva uka. So the what if the uka has a hole now, and water is going to go out from the uka to Rosh Hashanah? So the East Tani answer lafuk. Those who say you don't have to be pokake, which is as Korban says, you don't have to be concerned. You made your uka. The fact that now it leaks out Rosh Hashanah is not a concern for you. But East Tani tzarich lafuk. To those who say that you do have to plug it up, then it shouldn't go out to Rosh Hashanah. Nismalo uka. So now the uka got full when? Says well, actually, it says the next line. So let's do the next line first. East tiny tzarich lishbok. Those say have to spill out. So Korban says tzarich lishbok hamayim shugam erev Shabbos. Has to be dry for erev Shabbos. When Shabbos begins, if it's full, not dry, it has to not be full. Right? Although it sounds Korban that you have to completely empty. It says Shabbos. So it sounds like you have to. It's not just you have to lower the level, but you have to completely empty it. Moshe doesn't learn that way. He says to diminish the water level. So it sounds like you don't have to completely empty it. Istani ain't tzarich. You don't have to spill out. As Kumnei Moshe explains, ain't tzarich shbei mena klum. Even if it's full. So if you can keep pouring water in there. You don't have to go free frame. The Yatsu Shusami Yatsu, they go out. Okay, they go out. Again, you fulfill Chazal. You made your uka. The fact that it goes out, that's already, we're not concerned with that. I said, Chatanahu. It's one Tana. In other words, they're consistent. These two issues, and they are linked. The one about plugging the hole, and the one about removing the water. It goes with Chaim's Girsa here, which changes it. I'm not sure you have to change it, but Mandamar Tzarech Lefok, he who says you have to plug the hole, he says instead of Oser here is the word Tzarech Lishpoch. We have to also pour it out if it's overflowing. Mandamar Ein Tzarech Lefok, the one who says that you don't have to plug it if it's leaking out just Rabim, holds that, and here of course to change again. Ain't Tzarech Lishpoch, you don't have to spill it out. Okay, so. So, Oser Mutter, we have Tzarech and Ein Tzarech. On Rebbe Chia Bar Meria, Rebbe Chia Bar Meria said to Rabbi Mana, this is Taka, what your father, Rabbi Yonah, said. Baruch Shekibata. Okay, the next line I'm going to learn with Gears of Chaim Kanievsky. Everybody changed gears here. I don't know, everybody. Chaim changed it. Have a bar katifras. Okay, because we're doing a bar too. I mean, but it had a slope, right? Mi bifnim. So if the slope is on the inside, meaning that it's just a Rabbim is up here, and there's a slope, and down here is your chotzer. Chotzer over here, slope. There's just Rabbim. So afilu yoiser here it says me'eser mutter. The Chaim changed it. It's a cute chab. Mi kashir it should be, not mi eser. Because more kashir. In other words, even if it's you pour even more in base or sign, even if it's 4 amos or less than 4 amos, because it's a slope, it's not going to go up to just a rabbi, right? So therefore, it's not a problem. Mi bachutz, but if the slope is going down, in other words, your chutzer is up here, and then you have a slope, and down here it's just a rabbin. So then afilu pachas again mikashir aser, right? Even less shir aser because it's going to go down just a rabbin. It's going to roll down the slope to just a rabbin, even though do less than the shear of a base sign. So presumably even more than 4 amos. So our mission say about where it's grade. Everything is on the same level. So if there's no issue of water rolling up, rolling down would be a problem. Rolling up would not be a problem. But that's not our discussion here is, and that's why the shear 4 amos or sign, or the uka to hold this sign. Now in the next Gemara, according to Reb Chaim Kanievsky, we're referencing Machlokes Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish in the Bavli as to whether the 4x4 amos has to be square. Precisely, it can even be like 2x8. So it's 16 square amos, and Rabbi Yochanan holds it has to be 4x4 precisely, and Reish Lakish says it can be 2x8 as long as you have 16 square amos. The reason given in the Bavli is because according to Rabbi Yochanan, it has to be a place that's royal zalef, so that you would want the dirt to be tamped down by the water you pour there, and that specifically is about the mazaleh for chutzner if it's 4x4, because you want it's usable. So you want the water tamped down, then that's specific. That if it's 2x8, it's not really usable, and you're not concerned with tamping it down. According to Reish Lakish, it is even 2x8. The issue is not tamping down the dirt, but the issue is rather the that you have enough area to absorb the water if you have 16 square amos, so therefore the shape doesn't really matter. So he learns the next Gemara brings rayas about concerning this machlokes with Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish. According to the most information here, there's also referring to a machlokes Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish, which does not appear here, but it's a machlokes whether you have 2 levels can be mitzaref. So Rabbi Yochanan holds that to the 2 levels cannot be mitzaref. Have to be everything has to be the same level, the 4x4 and the according to Reish Lakish the can be mitzvah. So the Gemara says, "Masisa pi Rabbi Yochanan." Mishnah argues Rabbi Yochanan says a chotzer b'chsadra mitzdarfin. Barabam is a chotzer and achsadra mitzdarfin for amos. So according to Chaim Kanievsky, the Gemara is assuming, well, there it's not square, right? It must be because one's a chutz and one's a chsadra. It must be some funny shape, and it's a raya against Rabbi Yochanan. So Gemara says plus b'shaveh. No, it makes up 4x4. The chutz and chsadra make up 4x4. According to the other mefarshim, the question is, well, chutz and chsadra are not at the same level. Chsadra has presumably has some sort of floor, so it's not whereas the chutz is not. So the Gemara answers, no, they're on the same level. And then the Gemara says, that's basically Reish Lakish. Now, Chaim changes this to Rabbi Yochanan. And the truth is, works out better if you change it, even according to the other Mefarshim. It says, my Pesach, Hagag v'Chotzer, it says a porch and a roof and a Chotzer, the Omet Sar for Arba Amos. So again, they also they seem to be irregularly shaped or they are in different levels. Rabbi Chanina. So it says, Oni b'shaveh. No, they're all make up this proper square 4x4, or they're all on the same level. Article makes it work even with the gear says Masisa Pliga Reish Lakish, but it's much more difficult to. It's much easier to go with the change of gears of Reb Chaim makes that goes in Rabbi Yochanan. Okay, so where it says Dash l'chashu kain, you should know this is true. The Tani, because we have another bite says Abayis aliyah v'chotzer v'chsadra ein mitzdarfin. They're not mitzdarfin. And here in the Vilna it says lo with a vav, but the Shini Yisrael changed it to lo with an aleph. The article does. Yeah, lo with an aleph, right? So what do you mean? We just said they are mitzdarf, and you're saying they're not mitzdarf. So lo b'shein shavin is not b'shein shavin. So obviously that's you see that the way they reconcile the two statements is that to say one is about where shavah, either again 4x4 amos properly, or it's the other pshat, it's all on the same level, and the other side, well, it's not 4x4 amos in proper configuration, or it's not on the same level. So you can pour directly into the beef hakamor, and the Chacham said, no, you can't pour directly into the beef. You can only pour indirectly on the roof, and then it goes down to the beef, because otherwise it looks like you wanted to go directly out to flow to Sarabim. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, Shem Ramud Avrecher. Meir, Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov hold that you can pour it directly into the drainage ditch. Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, the Tnei Elazar ben Yaakov, our Mishnah, it says, Elazar ben Yaakov, Meir, Beef Shekamer Arba Amos. You have the drainage ditch which is covered 4 Amos, just Rabbi Shabbat, Mayim Shabbos. Pour directly into the beef. Chachamim says, I feel gal chutzer mea amma lo yishba beef. You can't pour directly into the beef. You can only pour into the chutzer or onto the gag. That's Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, right? Meir, where we say Meir the tani silona shebekrochim. You have pipes in a city, and the Carbonate says. They go direct into Shusrabim, and they are they're more than 4 amos. In other words, they go out. I'm not sure why the 4 amos are essential here. Though it's true, listen, Yaakov said, "Beef should come to Shusrabim." He gets, even though it's more 4 amos, right? Even though it's 4 amos, Shusrabim, and going to the war is going to travel. Shusrabim 4 amos, but since it's underground, it's okay here too to see Linus Abish and Kuvin, even though they have holes in them, and the water is eventually going to spill into just a rabbin, right? But you're pouring into the one side of the pipe. The pipe eventually has just rabbin, but further down line. So you spoke to Mayim Shabbos even Meir. You can pour water to them in Shabbos going to Meir, and that is the same as Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. Okay, the next Gemara, there are pictures in the art scroll of a maschela, like a gutter, and I think it's called a leader, which is going down from the roof. But those pictures are going to the art scroll's interpretation of the Gemara. We're not going to go with the art scroll's interpretation. We're going to go with the Reb Chaim's interpretation. So the Reb Chaim says, "V'tani kain." We also learned the similar thing in Brisa. Ima yisah mazchela. if there was a maschela, which he says is underground. In other words, that's the silon, right? The pipe. There's an underground maschela, an underground drainage ditch, mutter, right? It's mutter to pour the into that drainage ditch. If you notice the shamimu, mutter. Also, if it's a rainy season, it's mutter, meaning that you don't need an uka, as Korban says that this whole uka is necessary in the dry, which talking about mission is necessary in the dry season, when it looks, it's obvious the you're spilling water is going to just happen. But anyway, everything is muddy and damp, and there's water all over the place. So therefore, chacham in that season not require it doesn't look like you're pouring it out to just a rabbit. So therefore, not require an uka in Mosek Shamim. Okay, again, Mosek Shamim mutter. Now, tzinoros mekalchim bo osor. The Reb Chaim changes in the that to mutter. That's Reb Chaim name of the Gra, and it's all one sentence, meaning that if it's ones geshamim and a lot of water is pouring out, so not nikah, this water is going out into the to Shus Rabin because everything is going everywhere, right? Tzinoros mekalchim, the pipes are gushing with water, then it's mutter. Okay, so it's all one thought. Alternative is say tzores b'kachim bo also, meaning that even it's the rainy season, if most of the water is going through pipes and not through the yard, so then you still need the uka because there's a very efficient drainage system. So the whole thing is not muddy and watery. So therefore, everything is going out to tzinoros. Your stuff not going to tzinor. You were less than 4 amos. You still need uka even during the rainy season. That's the alternative. So Gemara brings evidence to this. Vatani parakapara. This is b'menechusa. It's a raya. Ima makom tzura mutter. Now this language of makom tzura is not so shaykh here. It's shaykh with a parallel sugi appears in Kilaim. So all those are things that are also because of Marasayin to do in public. But if it's in private, it's okay. So here, this is equivalent to private. It actually brings us down like over there in Kilaim because it's all the rainwater is going all over the place because it's rainy season, and therefore it's not an issue of Marasayin. So therefore, even though normally in the dry season, or if there aren't pipes, according to Akirsa, it would be usher. But since there are all this stuff, well. Or mutter, depending on the gear, so we like rather prime. But anyway, in this case, the reason why it's talking about is because no Marasayin. So it says, Rav, this argues on Rav, and there's no way to sustain Rav. Now, Rav is the one who holds Rav Amar Kosh Asur Marasayin Hafilu Chaji Chadorim Asur. Anything which is us because Marasayin, there's no Malcolm Tzanu a heter. So therefore, according to Rav, there'll be no heter, even though the water is gushing in the rainy season. So whole discussion here in the Mefarshim, our opponent Shari Korban actually already discussed it. When it says that Leis Kiyum, does it mean that that the Yerushalmi is pasking against Rav, right? And or not? So the Shari Korban says, yeah, kind of really right. I'm not sure you're going on paskud the local Rav. Bro, it's not as a Chaji Chadorim. It's a right like those showing pass against Rab. The Maraponim says no. He says correct side perik teski line. She's about to the Rav Islaikum. Ravi Kaimelon. And the Turetz Sham Karani Keftos. And the Bavi resolves all these questions. So the question is, when the Yerushalmi says Islaikum, is it mean that in fact that halacha is not like Rav, or that like Shakram is saying? Or my point seems to be actually saying that too, that they can't sustain, according to the Yerushalmi, can't sustain, but the Bavli argues on the Yerushalmi. But the Rashba on that Peches says the exact opposite. He says that other plea Rav lays the Kiyum because he passes like Rav. So even though all these brises seem to argue Rav, we still pass like Rav that koshos of shumar sign for the hi our case not even mar sign because it's Yimosak Shami. You have to say it's not an issue. But so place the kiyum according to Rashi means the exact opposite. Not that Rav can't be sustained, but the brises are not raya against Rav. We pass like Rav. What do you do with the brises? Either Rav Tana Polig, or you say that those are special cases. Okay, that brings us to the end of the Amud and the end of the Perek, so certainly a place to stop.